Hey guys, welcome back to another video. You're watching Trains with Shane, and what we have here is our Scale Atlas Fairbanks Morris H15-44. If you guys caught the video a couple of weeks ago, you will know that I bought this used at a train show. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or late last year. Same train show, it comes around twice a year here in the North Dallas area. If you guys caught the previous video, you will know that we were unable to get this thing working. It is a DCC locomotive. We ran through our troubleshooting steps and noted that the motor in the drivetrain is free and works when you apply DC power to it. And you guys will also know that in the process of taking this thing apart and putting it back together, we snapped one of these little copper strips, contact strips that run along the side right here. So we were pretty much skunked at that point. I had pretty much determined that we were going to need a new DCC board for this, or a DC light board. If I had my druthers, I would have gotten a DC light board, but a quick glance on Atlas's parts website didn't show one. But what they did show, and there's the part number there, is a replacement DCC board with lights for this unit. They also have this part number right here, replacement copper DCC contact strips. So I went ahead and bought 2 of them so we can just replace both. Not assuming that the other one was as brittle as this one, but kind of like replacing brake shoes or brake pads on your car. It's just best to do both sides at one time. So let's get this thing apart here. Get our shell off. I am horrible at this. Oh, there's our tank. There we go. All right, set that shell aside. We're down to the inner workings here. Go ahead and take our other contact strip out. It looks okay. I'm not going to try to break it. Keep that as spares. There's our, as much as I can determine, non-functional light board / DCC controller. A little quick look here. You'll notice our board is different. Interesting. Upon very close inspection, so you can always tell a DCC board because it's got some kind of a logic chip on it, like this guy right here. Either they have replaced that with whatever these M2 labeled components are, or they sent me a DC light board, which honestly that's fine, but I paid for something that was more money than a DC light board. This was 35 bucks right here. Let's take a good look at our number here for possible return / RMA purposes. Grab the invoice here real quick. strange. Well, perhaps I was mistaken. Possibly in a good way, so let's see. So I can not show all of the information. Loco PC board. That's pretty nondescript. It's also $23, not $35. Honestly, if this thing is just a DC board, I'm happy with that. Not incredibly happy with the fact that I paid $23 for a little PCB with a couple of LEDs glued to it. Because honestly, if this were just a normal light board, I would expect to only pay like $10 for it, not 23. It's got a little bit of a flex in it, but I think that's okay. One thing you'll notice about this is it has the different colored LEDs on it, which is somewhat unique to this particular model. Need to see if I can gently pop these little plastic guys off. These are different, but come on. Or are they different? Yeah, they're slightly different. So it's obvious that one goes on one end and one goes on the other end. All right, well, let's start taking this thing apart either way. No use in crying about the possibility that I might have turned this from a DCC locomotive into a DC locomotive, because I wasn't really planning on making it a runner on the roster anyway, if I'm being honest. I got it because of Kansas City Southern. I'm going to gently spread here with our flathead after loosening the screws on each end. Just enough to where we can wiggle this board out of here, hopefully. And there went our trucks, which is fine. Sorry that my hands are in the way, guys. Okay. There's our old board. Our new board. So we want to favor this end for our contact strips. That'll be kind of a pain in the booty to get this in here correctly, because it looks like we got a solder blob there we have to deal with. I'm gonna wiggle that end, this end, in first. And take care to make sure that tab ends up underneath the light board, because that's the power lead back to the motor. Okay. Looks like that fit back together. The one thing I don't like about these particular units is that you can't see through here to the board to make sure your contacts are lined up. For now, I'm going to set this down real quick. And so I don't bother those of you who might be running Google Home or anything like that. I'm going to turn on my power supply for my train via other smart home functions. Which means we're going to break out the electrodes. And if this is a DC light board, we should be able to just put power to the sides here. Okay, let's get wasn't great, but we're also at fairly low power on our DC transmitter here. It turns around, the lights do light up. Let's just put a little bit more power to it. We'll go the other way. See how our lights change color from green to red depending on I'm not gonna lie, that is pretty cool. So that explains the additional there's probably a combination of resistors and diodes in here. So when you change the polarity from plus to minus, it gives you a different color on the multicolor LED. That's actually kind of cool. I like that. So we verified it's a DC light board. Okay, no huge loss. So I'm just gonna do a little recursory inspection here. Yeah, we're nice and pretty free turning on this thing. So I just wanted to make sure there weren't any tight spots causing it to bind up. So I think I should put the trucks on before well, not only before I tighten this down, but before I put the contact strips back on. I'll put the contact strips back in a second. Okay, we're in there. Gonna take our small Phillips and snug our screws down. And for those of you who have not really done much in taking something like this apart before, go back earlier in my playlist to the early days when I was taking apart Bachmann stuff quite a bit, and even early Kato and Atlas stuff. The split chassis stuff, all of the early stuff comes apart the same way. Whether it's Bachmann or, well, not lifelike, but Bachmann, Atlas, Kato, especially when Atlas was building, or Kato was building stuff for Atlas. Basically, you've got two hex-shaped captive, semi-captive, I guess, nuts on the back that these screws thread into, and they hold together two parts of a split frame that are physically isolated in the middle with little plastic dividers. So it basically just conducts a positive and negative through the entire chassis to the motor. Forget how complicated these electronics are on top, because that's basically all that's going on here. And that, of course, is for DC, and DC, which I love, is very easy to troubleshoot when it's broken. DCC, there are other factors, digital signals. It's much more important that the track be absolutely spotless. We're going to compare our new strip here against our old strip. See if I can get this in camera here. You guys can see it looks identical, so we're going to run it. And this just threads in here into this little channel in the side of the casting, which gets covered up and locked in by the fuel tank. You want to be careful with these. You don't want to hammer on them too harshly, although they are kind of a press fit into here. You just want to make sure you're lined up, and you'll have to give it a tiny bit of a push because these little dimples here need to fit up against the motor casting here. And then you make sure the top halves, or the legs, see how they act on these little nubs here on the top of the trucks? That is how your power transfers. So, if you look at this top on, we'll see how there's a recess cut right here. I wonder what way that's supposed to go, because it almost looks to me, because I've got the notch facing the inside. Let me get this off of camera here real quick, guys, because I need to get this close to my old face to see what we've got here. No, I think it goes the other way, actually. I'm going to pull that out, turn it 180 degrees. Come on, get in there, guy. I'm sure Watch Trains Now would have had this done already. There we go, and that snaps into place. If you've never watched his channel, you should. He's more methodical than I am, for sure. And he's better at explaining things, I find. He's certainly better with an airbrush than I am. And he's a friend of the channel, so you should go check his stuff out. All right, I'm going to wiggle this one down there. See if we can get it to push in. There's a little bit of resistance here. There we go. Go to your home. You're too good for your home? Answer me! I think we're okay there, but I'd like to take my small flathead here just to make sure we're seated. I may have to do this off camera as well. I think we're okay. It appears that we're flush as much as we can be up against that. Let me get you guys in here. Maybe not 100% flush on this top side. We're where we need to be as far as I don't want to mess with this too much because I don't want to bust this copper strip. It's kind of pivoting in there. I don't think I see any schmutz in there that will affect it. We'll just leave it as it is and leave well enough alone. Let's break out the electrodes one more time. And go to our wheels here. Maybe one of these days I'll re-tin the ends of these so they don't look as disgusting. Okay, we've got action there. So we're going to call that good for now. Let's see if we can remember which sides these came off of. I believe this one is on this side. Or was it? Look at how it fits down. Yeah, there's a dip on this side and fits over the bearing surface here. I'm gonna have to wiggle this a tiny bit. Okay. And this one on the other side. Being careful. It's not the toughest plastic in the world, guys, so you don't want to go really hooning and torquing on this thing. All right, that's done. Put our fuel tank back in. This will also secure our copper contact strips. Our shell. Which way? Okay, we'll Guess we'll try it this way. If it doesn't fit, we'll try it the other way. That wasn't too painful. Pretty flush up in there. We have these little pieces that go on the sides. I'm not going to bother with those right now because they fit so loose. I'd prefer to put a dab of cyanoacrylate or CA glue. We grew up knowing it as super glue or crazy glue when I was a kid. So for those of you who aren't into the scientific names, let me get set up and get this on our test track right here, get that plugged in, and we will see if our money has been well spent. Alright guys, we have reconfigured the disgusting workbench with the disgusting test track. It's just a couple of pieces of Kato Unitrack hooked into a very, very old Bachmann DC transformer. Very non-linear power delivery on it, but it should be good enough for what we want to try. So let's give her some juice. And let's do that again because we have a dirty track. Forward and back she goes. It may not show up very well due to the angle here, but our class lights change color. Back and forth she goes. So I'm happy with it. I think we've got a winner. I could probably stand to clean the wheels on this thing. That's a lot easier to do now that we can get it to run under its own power. And you guys have seen me do that about 11 billion times. The track isn't incredibly dirty, but you can see the line on my finger. There's definitely some oxide on there. So that could use a little cleaning and possibly a little no-ox ID if I can find it. I know I've got it here somewhere, I think. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it. Anyway, guys, so let me turn some lights back on here. So will it run? Yes, finally. I think this is probably my first repair that I've ever ordered parts on. So, yeah, here it is. Like I said, about $35 in total with shipping for parts. $50 in for the locomotive as it was originally. So we're in $85 on it all told. Not a fantastic deal, but it's about what used and Scale is going for right now. So it is what it is. Ended up not being a financial win per se, but we're not in the hole on it. So, and we have a functioning Kansas City Southern unit. So all's well that ends well. And with that, I'm going to thank you guys for joining me in another episode of Trains with Shane. I was going to make a separate announcement on the channel about this, and I may still. The Plano, Texas train show that they have at the Plano Center is coming up here at the end of September. I think it's September 30th and October 1st, which is a Saturday and a Sunday. I will be there on Saturday with my brother Chris, and we will be walking around. I won't have anything on really that identifies me as me per se, but I will be wearing probably my Galveston Railroad Museum shirt. And if I'm not wearing that, it'll be something suitably nerdy like my Goonies t-shirt. Probably my Goonies t-shirt. So if you're out there, keep an eye out. If you find me, come up to me, say hello, shake my hand. I'd I would be very happy to meet some of you people, because y'all will be the first fans that I've ever met in person. So hopefully I'll see you there, guys. And until then, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.